Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Bright Blue Star videos. Important points about the situation in Iraq, and I know that many people will they have questions regarding what's happening in Iraq, and it's important for us as Americans because we gave thousands of soldiers and valuable souls and people sacrificed to remove a regime from that country, a tyrannical regime, and to replace it with hope and democracy. Unfortunately, reality is different, and I'm not trying here to bring any negative thoughts or ideas regarding the situation, but I'm just trying to be realistic. Despite the failures and what's happening, yet we achieved great things in Iraq, and the country is not worse by any means, as many people think, especially Americans. They think that the situation under Saddam was much better, but it was not. And the difference lies in the fact that under Saddam, it was like living in a tomb. I remember that under Saddam, the killing machine was still going on, like what happens today in Iraq: casualties, death, torture. The difference is that was happening under Saddam, and no media was covering it. Saddam used to kill people, put them in mass graves. He would kill thousands of innocent civilians and women, children, and men who have nothing done wrong except having a different opinion or being from a different sect or ethnicity that which the regime does not like. But also Saddam, it was true that he used sectarian policies, but his major way of ruling was to kill anybody opposed to him. So even if somebody is a Sunni, if he finds any proof that that person is plotting against the government or it was even thinking of joining the opposition, he would kill them mostly. So I made some important points about the attack on the American embassy, and even though I have seen an American general, I don't remember his name right now, but on an American news agency that was broadcasting to the Middle East in Arabic, he stated that what happened in Baghdad wasn't serious enough to use violence or weapons, because those who attacked some few buildings or entrance of the embassy were not armed. As he stated, that they were not armed, they were disarmed, and they only used their arms or some tools. Yeah, but there was no serious militant attack on the embassy. But I still saw that attack as as a threat, because remember last week they did bomb an American base, and an American contractor was killed in the attack. So it's not that they don't have the desire to kill, but it is just that sometimes these militias offer themselves as peaceful to send a false impression that they are peaceful. And I should explain to the American people here, and it's very important for them to know, and that is something the American media failed to explain, and that is the people who attacked the U.S. embassy in Baghdad, they are completely different from those who are protesting in Al-Tahrir or the Liberation Square in Baghdad, who give like daily casualties because of government militias who attack them, assassinate them, and torture them, kidnap them. Those protesters who are against Iran are totally different, and they are the majority. They gather in other major places like Al-Tahrir Square, and also in southern provinces they protest against Iran. And the good thing is that they are Shia. Most of them are Shia, and Shiism is the major or official faith claimed by the Iranian regime, of course. So a Shi'i to be an opponent of Iran in Iraq, that is a good sign that those people, despite they're having the same faith like the Iranian government claim, but they believe in Iraq as a country. They don't believe that Iraq should follow Iran just because they share the same faith or the same sect. Yeah, so it's very important to remember that. So, and I believe that the U.S. government should help them. So, important points about the situation in Iraq. First, the Iranian regime is aggressive, like any dictatorial regime. That's calling for a more lenient Iranian policy is wrong. And the horrible fact is that only Israel is our true friend in the Middle East. I heard from some news agencies that some of the Democratic Party in the Congress, they called for a more lenient policy against the Iranian regime, and they even accused Trump of creating such a situation. And here I'm not defending Trump. I think that Trump, even when he does the right thing, he does it for the wrong reason. But since President Obama, we remember that the Iranians were interfering in Iraq despite the nuclear deal, and despite they claim that they gave up their nuclear program, but they were lying because they were interfering in Iraq, and I believe that they have been supporting terrorist actions a long time ago, like since the beginning of the change in Iraq, when Americans removed Saddam. In 2011, the the Syrian regime was sending suicidal bombers and terrorists to Iraq in the name of resisting the U.S. Presence in Iraq. And it was blessed by the Iranians. So the Iranian regime, who claims itself to be Shia, encouraged the Alawite or the Shiite dictatorial regime in Syria, who claims itself to be Shia again, to send terrorists to Iraq, a country that has a majority of Shia, and didn't mind for the terrorists to kill the Shia in Iraq, just for the sake of like pushing the situation to where they find America fail, because the majority of Iraqis, of course, who are Shia, they started working with the Americans. They joined the Iraqi army. They were building something, but Iran and Syria, they had a rule and a hand, just like Saudi Arabia did. They had a hand in aggravating the situation in Iraq and supporting the terrorists. That was my first point here, because I see that the Iranian regime see any lenient policy as a sign of weakness. That's how they see it. And remember, the Iranian regime, they don't care about their own people. So if they don't mind killing 1,500 peaceful Iranians, not to mention the Iraqis, of course, inside Iraq, if they don't mind killing 1,500 Iranian protesters in Iran itself, of course they don't care about American lives or Iraqi lives. Yeah, they don't give shit. If I can use the term, they don't give a shit to what others have, like suffering or casualties or deaths. The only thing that they want is more power and more regional control. And the second point here I want to make is that the Iraqi government is not to be trusted, because as the peaceful Iraqi protesters were demanding change near the protected green zone, the Iraqi security forces and the government militias killed over 550 people since the October the 1st. Yet the same forces that they were like killing the Iraqi protesters, the free, peaceful protesters, the same forces did nothing to stop militias from attacking the U.S. embassy. And they made it even easy for these militias to enter the region, and even led by their own leaders, like Qais al-Khazali, one of the leaders of the terrorist group named Asaib al-Haq, and also Hadi al-Amiri, who is the leader of al-Badr militia. So they joined the fake protesters, of course, the militia protesters, in entering the area. The third point I want to make here is that compare the peaceful protesters who neared the Iranian consulate in the holy city of Najaf, and how the Iraqi forces killed 4 of them, of the protesters, peaceful. They had no weapons with them, yet they killed them. And yet the same Iraqi forces did not even nothing, and didn't even use tear gas against those who attacked the U.S. embassy. So they didn't even use tear gas. So this government does not represent the Iraqi people, and it's against America and American interests in the entire country, not to mention the region. 4. When the leaders of the militia joined the attack on the U.S. embassy, they indeed showed how much trust they had in the American system, as they were aware that America doesn't shoot disarmed protesters. That was the irony of how good America is, thanks to our secular humanist laws. So America is a great country, and see, like Trump is so dumb that he wants to say, make America great America. America is already has great things. America is great, but also we know that we made the mistakes, and that does not change any fact about America's goodness, because to confess our mistakes and write about them and call them in name and teach them in schools, that itself make America a different country from many countries that just has a fascist point of view of everything. And America should not go that path. We don't glorify America without, and we should not glorify it, because glorification is wrong. It's always push us to the wrong policy. We should always criticize ourselves. 5, the problem is that we need to face an evil enemy with our bad allies, except Israel, of course. And despite that, Israel makes big wrong policies, but they still are our good ally. So, and despite the fact that the Saudis are not good allies, and they don't have even the minimum qualifications of a good ally, but the Russian alliance with Iran represent a real threat to our interests in the Middle East, North Africa, and Eastern Europe. We need to find some new allies in Iraq, and to do that, we need to do the following. So I prepared some points and suggestions that may help the U.S. government. And, listen, Republicans and Democrats, even though in my local point of view, domestic American politics, I may seem more democratic. I support Democrats in many policies. But when it comes to foreign policy, I think we should have the same point of view, especially for a strong foreign policy. Remember that a strong America will make even the world, make the world and make the free people everywhere safer and more successful. And that's the more democracy available in other parts of the world, the more successful we will have. So we must find a group of people, not based on any, a group of people that will help us and be our ally, not based on any sectarian or ethnic qualification, as we used to do in the past. So we used to choose our allies based on their sect or ethnicity, which is wrong and bad. For example, we have friends and enemies among all the 3 major sects in Iraq. So among Shia, we have friends and allies, and we have enemies also. And among the Arab Sunni Arabs, we have enemies and we have friends and allies. And among the Kurds also, we have, who are majority Sunnis, of course, again, we have friends and we have enemies as well. But most Americans don't know these things. B, we should transfer funds to those friends and put them in good use, such as liberal ideas and programs, democratic principles, and social activities that promote free thinking. Also, use this money and funds to help the most poor instead of giving it to the Iraqi corrupt elites. And it is easy to find the difference between the two in all the Iraqi regions. So there is a big difference between the rich who are in power and the poor who are without power. So you can see that in the entire country. Unfortunately, someone like Paul Bremer, the civilian American ruler of Iraq after 2003, involved in corruption and thus created this mess. So Paul Bremer was one of the pillars of corruption that created such a sectarian and ethnic division in Iraq. C, we should have a position of strength in the Middle East because those dictators, terrorists, and tyrants don't understand anything but a message with strength. So they don't respect any policy except they see that you are serious, that we are strong to tell them, no, you cannot do that. And I know that Republicans and Democrats alike might not like this plan, but that's because they are either involved in corruption with local politicians, such as in Iraq or Saudi Arabia. Yeah, there are American politicians who are involved and sunken to corruption, or they are idealistic, they are sunken to idealism and wishful thinking in foreign policy. I hope that this short, I tried to make it short, explains enough for the American people. And please leave a comment. Any suggestions and ideas will be welcome. And please check out our podcast also on anchor.fm. See you next episode. Thank you.